Welcome to this tutorial for the Lloyd's Contract Quality Triage Tool, or CQTT as it's more commonly known. My name is Mark Haverty. I'm a business architect at Imagefast and I've fulfilled the role of design authority as part of the joint Lloyd's and Imagefast CQTT project team. In this tutorial, I'll be taking you through the key features of the CQTT as a user, from logging into the tool to running checks against documents and viewing and working with the results of those checks. Before we get into the tutorial in detail, let's take a high-level look at the key components of the CQTT we'll need to be familiar with before we start. The CQTT is a web-based tool which allows users to run a number of checks against documents which will typically be contracts. As a user, you will have the ability to upload contracts and run checks against one of the four core modules within the tool. Module 1 will allow a user to upload 2 contracts, and the tool will compare the two and highlight the differences, showing text insertions, modifications and deletions, as well as any format changes. Module 2 provides the same PBQA checks as the current Lloyd's Open Market QA tool, with some additional functionality which we'll cover in the tutorial. Module 3 performs a series of checks against a contract to see if certain clauses and wordings exist. It will have the ability to search for LMA model wordings or for model wordings against your own managing agent's library. Module 4 provides risk appetite checks based on rules which can be built and managed by an administrative user within your own managing agent. It's worth pointing out that this tutorial is intended for use for the first release of the CQTT, which includes modules 1 and 2. It also includes hot topics and keyword functionality, which we'll take a look at as well. We won't be covering any of the administrative features of the CQTT in this tutorial, as they are covered in a separate video. Let's start by logging into the CQTT. To access the tool, open your web browser and type in the URL for your company's instance of the CQTT. In this example, we're using the Imagefast instance as shown in the address bar. The URL for your company's instance of the CQTT will have been provided to you by your administrator, or you can access it from the invitation email you will have received when your user account was created. The login screen shows the black Lloyd's header bar at the top of the screen, which also acts as the global navigation toolbar once you've logged in. Clicking on the Lloyd's logo will open the Lloyd's corporate website in a new browser tab. The blue bar below the black header bar can be customized by a CQTT user within your company with administrative permissions to show your corporate colors and logo, where we currently see the default CQTT logo on the right. Additionally, the text in the useful information panel can be customized as well. To log in to the CQTT, enter your corporate email address and password. If you've forgotten your password at any point, you can click on the Forgot Your Password link, enter your email address, and an email will automatically be sent to you with instructions on how to reset your password. Before we get into the detail of each section of the CQTT, let's take a brief look around the user interface to familiarize ourselves with the key areas of the tool that you'll be working with as a user. Once logged in, the activity list is presented to you. This is essentially the home page of the CQTT, and it provides access to the results of document checks that you have permission to see and work with. The activity list has a search and advanced filter function, as well as a switch to quickly filter the view between results of checks that your team has run and the results of checks that you have run yourself. We'll look at this in more detail as part of the working with the activity list section of the tutorial. The black global navigation toolbar now shows links to the activity list, the document library and the clause library. Additionally, the user menu can be accessed on the right of the toolbar and a link to show contextual help for each section of the CQTT. To view your profile, click the drop-down User menu and select Profile from the menu. This displays your profile information with your username displayed along with your full name and your description. You can also see your roles and classes of business that have been assigned to you on the right hand side of the screen. Your roles and classes of business are set by your CQTT administrator. From the profile screen, you can reset your password by entering a new password in the reset password field and again in the confirm reset password field below. Then just click the update password button and your password will be reset. If we view the user drop down again, we can see that I have administration permissions with the admin options displayed underneath the profile and logout options. As mentioned in the introduction, the administration of the CQTT is covered in a separate tutorial. To log out of the CQTT, simply click the logout option on the menu. Now that we've taken a brief look through the user interface for the CQTT, let's look at the activity list in more detail. The activity list shows the results of all checks that have either been run by you or have been run by other users within your managing agent who have permissions to work with documents classified with a class of business that you also have permissions to work with. This is known as your team. So for example, all users who have been given permission to the Hull War class of business will be able to see the results of any checks completed against documents classified with that same class of business. By default, the activity list shows check results for your team, with the most recent check at the top of the list. To quickly filter the activity list to only show check results that you have run, simply click the Team Activities, My Activities switch above the list. And as I do this, you'll notice, looking at the paging control at the bottom of the list, that the results go from 6 to 4. So I can quickly filter and see my results against my team's results. Alongside the Team Activities, My Activities switch, we see a search box which will allow you to search quickly for any check results that are available to you in the activity list. You can search against any of the metadata which is stored against a document used in a check. So if we look here, I can see that I've got some results against the Hull War class of business and some against the Hull. So I may want to just filter that list to show that. So I can simply type in Hull and you'll see the results filter down to 13. If I continue typing Hull War, it gives me 5. And we can reset the list by simply clearing the search. In addition to the search functionality, the activity list can also be filtered using the advanced filter, which is available by clicking on the icon next to the search box. This opens the advanced filter panel and shows the metadata fields which can be used to filter the activity list. So for example, if I wanted to filter the list to show any check results against contracts with direct insurance where the exposure country is Australia, I simply select the values from the relevant fields, click apply filter, and you'll see the activity list filters down for us. We can filter the list further by simply reopening the advanced filter panel and selecting additional values from the relevant fields. So for example, if I want to see results with direct insurance where the exposure country is Australia and the class of business is liability, I can click apply filter and you can see our check results have gone from 90 odd to 1 by using the advanced filter capability. If I open the advanced filter panel again, I can click clear filter and that will return me to the full list. We've looked at how we can filter the activity list using the Team Activities, My Activities switch, as well as the search functionality and the advanced filter functionality. We can also sort the check results in the activity list by clicking on any of the column headers displayed, as shown here. So here I'm seeing all of the check results using sorted by document title as follows. As we can see, the activity list provides information about the documents that checks have been run against. So I can see the status of the check, I can see the title, uploaded date, as well as inception, UMR, market, class of business, exposure country, tax country, and a numeric display showing the number of checks that have been run. I can see additional information by clicking on the ellipsis button, which will load all of the document properties which aren't displayed by default in the activity list. To close the document properties panel, just click the X. The status column displays an icon to tell the user the status of a check result. And we can find out more information about the icon by simply hovering over it. So the yellow circle with a tick in it tells me the check result is ready to view. So the system has processed the checks and I can now look at those results in some more detail. The red icon with an alert shows that there's an error against that check. And if we filter this further, I can see green icon with a white tick shows me that the checks have been complete. And the green pencil icon tells me that the check results are being viewed and are in progress. The final thing to look at on the activity list is the new check button. Checks within CQTT can either be invoked from the activity list or by selecting documents in the document list. We'll now look at running a new check from the activity list. Let's take a look at the new check wizard by running a simple document comparison check. To open the new check wizard from the activity list, simply click the new check button above the activity list. This loads the new check wizard. Along the top, we can see the modules that we are able to run checks against, and below that, on the left-hand side of the screen, an area that allows us to select the files that we want to run checks against. We can see that we can choose a file from the file system. We have a drop file zone where we can drag and drop files, or we can also select files that have already been uploaded to the document list. In this first example, I'll select a file from the file system. Simply click the Choose File button, select the file that I want to run a check against, click Open, and the file is uploaded to the system. You'll see that the user interface has changed, and we now see on the right hand side a document properties form which allows us to enter metadata associated to this particular document if we wish to do so. Now, for document comparison checks, there is no requirement to enter any metadata, so we'll come back and look at this in more detail shortly. Now that I've entered my document that I want to run a document comparison check against, I now need to click the Compare button. And this makes that document that I've just uploaded the proposed document. So in real terms, this is likely to be the proposed contract from a broker. And on the right hand side, you'll now see the interface has changed and we see the file upload form again, where we can select the file that we want to compare the proposed document against. Now again, I will use the Choose File option and select my file from the file system, click Open, and that file now appears on the right hand side. Having uploaded the two files that I want to run a document comparison check against, if I now realise that I maybe have got the documents in the wrong order, so document K here should be the proposed and document L should be the document to compare against, I can simply swap the documents over by clicking the Swap Document button. And this moves them around as follows. And if that's not right, I can click the Swap button again to swap them back. There's other buttons to look at here, which we'll look at in more detail as we run other checks. So we're now ready to go with the document comparison check, and all I need to do is click Submit. As part of this process, we're now uploading the documents to CQTT. The check wizard is now running, and the document comparison check is being completed. You can see the status icon is a spinning green icon that's telling us we're running, and then when the activity is complete we'll get a green box and it tells us that we're ready to go, and we're now able to look at the results of that document comparison check. We'll look at the results of document checks in more detail shortly. Having run a simple document comparison check, let's go back and look at the new check wizard and run a check against the PBQA module. So again, from the activity list, I simply click the new check button, which opens the new check wizard, and we see the same file upload options on the left-hand side of the screen. This time, I'll drag and drop a file in to show you how that works. So from my file system, I simply drag the file, drop it in the drop zone, and the file is uploaded. Now this time I don't want to run a document comparison check, I just want to run a PBQA check against this particular document. But you'll notice I cannot click the PBQA module, which is grayed out, because the system is telling me it needs 5 additional properties for the document in order to run the check. So on the right hand side, if we look at the document properties form in a bit more detail, we can see those 5 fields that are required highlighted in red. And these are the same as if we were running a PBQA check against the current Lloyd's open market QA tool. So I can select the insurance type as direct, I can select a market and a class of business, and as I'm doing this, what you'll notice is the number of properties required is decreasing. So I can select my exposure country and scroll down, and my taxation country, and so on. And I've now given the system the minimum amount of data that is required to run the PBQA check, so I can now tick the box. However, I can also continue adding metadata to this document if I wish to do so. We won't do that now, I'll show you a number of ways we can do that shortly. So I'm now ready to run the check, and all I need to do is click submit. Again, the document is uploaded to CQTT because we brought it in from the file system. We can see the status of the check with the green icon. And when the check is complete, it's updated to show the ready icon, so we're ready to view the results. We've seen how to use the new check wizard to do a document comparison check and to run PBQA checks. Let's now look at running another check combining both module 1 and 2 together. From the new check wizard, we see the same file upload panel on the left. This time I will select a document that I've already uploaded. So let's select document L, and we see, as before, the document information panel loads on the left. If I now click the compare panel, I see that I can select another document on the right. I'll select document K, and we can see that document L requires some information in order to run the PBQA checks. So in a scenario where we're running multiple checks against documents, the proposed document will always be used for any of the other modules. So I can simply edit the properties and then enter the metadata as required. Now that I've clicked save, we can see that PBQA is available to us. I select PBQA and document compare and then submit. Now, because both of these documents have been uploaded previously, we get returned to the activity list much quicker, and we can see that the status of the check is running. So this time we're running both document comparison and PBQA, so the results may take a little longer to load. We can now see that CQTT has finished processing the check and the results are ready for us to view. And if we look over on the right hand side of the activity list for this latest check, you'll see we see the number 2 in the checks column. So this is telling us that 2 modules were run for this check. Now that we've seen how to run checks from the activity list using the new check wizard, let's take a look at how we can view and work with the results of those checks, using the most recently run check as an example. To open the check result, we can simply click on the status icon or the document title, which opens the check results screen. Before we get into the detail of the check results screen, let's just take a brief overview of how the interface is laid out. So the check results screen is split into 2, with the left-hand side showing sections or accordion controls displaying the results for each of the modules that we've run checks against, as well as a control for hot topics and for keyword search. Below that, we have the ability to download the results of checks, and we have some buttons below that as well. On the right hand side we see the rendered document, which we can scroll through using the mouse or arrow keys on our keyboard. Let's now take a look at how we can work with document comparison results. To view document comparison results, simply expand the document comparison check section on the left, which shows 4 subsections. Each subsection is for the different type of change to a document, so we can pick up text insertions, text modifications, text deletions and format changes. Each check result has its own unique ID, which is prefixed as shown in the ID column on the left. And on the right we can see the number of each type of change there is in each section. So we see 2 text insertions and 6 text modifications. To view them, simply click on the header and we then see links to take us to each of the individual changes. To view them, click on the ID and we will be jumped to the relevant part of the document on the right hand side of the screen. If we're happy with those insertions, we can tick the box and mark that they're happy and they're done. Let's look at text modifications, and the same thing applies. So we can simply click to jump around and identify quickly which are the changes that we want to look at and pay some attention to, and mark off the ones that we're happy with as we go. To collapse one of the sections, just click on it again and you can see it collapses. And you'll notice down below here where we have text deletions and format changes, both those sections are ticked because there are no deletions or changes to look at. So we see a 0 in there, there's nothing for us to view. So if we look back at the text modifications section and expand that, we can see the 2 checks that I've already ticked and I've said I'm happy with, but there's more information that we can view. So to do this, we simply click on the arrows above the sections and that expands the check results panel to be full width of the screen. So what we're able to do with this is if we see a change that we might want to make a comment about or refer to someone, we have the ability to select an action from the drop down, and in this case I'll select refer, and if I do that I need to enter a comment, so I can say please check this, or something that is relevant to the particular check, and I can tick that I've acknowledged that. To collapse again, I just need to click the arrows and we're back to the same screen. And if I at this stage want to save what I'm doing and come out and come back to view more of these checks, I have the ability to close the check results, which will return me to the activity list. And here we can see that the status icon is updated to show me that my check results and reviewing those is now in progress. Now let's take a look at PBQA check results. I'll click the icon to go back into the check results screen, which will load, and then I'll expand the PBQA checks section on the left. So we can see underneath the PBQA check section that there are 4 subsections for each area of the PBQA checks that we run: contract certainty, tax and regulatory, and Lloyd's advisory. We also have one for none, where it doesn't fall into one of those 3 categories. As with the document comparison checks, we also get a number to show us how many results there are in each section. So let's expand on the Lloyd's advisory section, and we can see that results are ordered by red, amber and green status. If I collapse that and look at contract certainty, we can see a number of reds, some ambers and some greens. Where we see a black and grey chevron, that tells us there's actually search hits for those checks. So if I click on that icon, it will actually jump us to the section of the document, similar to document compare, where there's a relevant search hit for us to review. If I expand on the check results, I can also see some information about the individual check by clicking on the information icon. That gives me a message and a description, as we would see in the Open Market QA tool. As with document comparison, I can select an action, and if I select refer, I also need to enter a comment as before, and I can check the box to note that I've looked at that. Where we have a section with reds, we must select an action. So for ambers and greens, the action is not required, it's optional, but for reds, an action is required. So again, I can select and enter a comment. Collapse the check results pane and close as before to come back out to the activity list. We'll now look at the keyword search functionality, which is available in the check results screen. To view the keyword search function, simply expand the keyword search section on the left and you'll see a search box appear. You can now search for any word which is in the document. So for example, terrorism. And the results will then display similar to document compare and PBQA checks. We'll get an ID, a confirmation of the word that we've searched for, and a number count. And we can expand on the individual keyword search results and we see a list of the individual hits. By clicking on them, we're jumped to the relevant area of the document. Now, as with document comparison and PBQA checks, we can expand the check results pane here, and we may see a keyword search result that we want to do something with or make a note against or possibly refer. So again, I can select a refer and enter a comment. And if I tick the box to save that, then close the check results, collapse and close to come back to the activity list, what we'll find when I go back in, if we expand the keyword search, the system has kept just the one hit that I've put a note against. And we can expand to see that and review it further. Now we can do further keyword searches, not just with individual words, but with multiple words. And if I hit there, where you can see I've got one hit, again, I can jump to that. So it's very flexible. It's not just individual keywords. We can do more complex searches as well. Hot topics is an extension of the keyword search functionality we've just looked at. Hot topics are basically keyword searches that have been predefined by an administrator of the CQTT within your managing agent. And they are keyword searches that will automatically run across any document that is put through a number of checks. So if I expand the hot topic section, you can see one hot topic has been defined, and that's nuclear, where there's a match within the document. So there may be more hot topics that have been defined by the administrator. However, if the word that we're looking for doesn't show up, we just won't see it in the results. And as with keyword search, if I expand, I can see the individual results and click on them to jump to the highlighted words within the document. Also, as with keyword search, I can expand, select an action and make comments as required. As before, once I've made my comment, I can collapse the section and revert back to the full check results screen. The full output of any check results that you've run can be downloaded from the check results screen. Simply select a file format and click the download button. The final thing to look at on the check results screen are the action buttons. We can complete our check results, mark them as complete once we've checked all of the items that we need to action. However, once completed, we will no longer be able to select any actions or make any comments against any individual check results. We can discard the results, which will remove the results from the activity list, or we can close the results screen. I'll mark this check as complete. A dialog box appears to ask me to confirm, and this is an unrecoverable action once I've marked as complete. As we can see, the results are successfully saved, and if I go back to the activity list, the status icon is updated to show me that the check is now complete. We've looked at the activity list and how to run new checks from the activity list and view the results. And as part of that, you've seen us upload documents at the point that we're running the check. CQTT also provides us with an ability to upload documents to the system ahead of time so that they can be indexed by the system before running checks. To access the documents list, click Documents on the main navigation menu at the top of the page. You'll now see the document list load, which shows the documents that have already been uploaded to the system. And similar to the activity list, we have a paging control at the bottom of the page to allow us to step through all of the documents that have been uploaded. We can also sort by the column headers, and we can see some metadata about the documents that have been uploaded. Additionally, we have this available modules column, which shows the number of modules that can be run for this document based on the metadata that has been saved to it. So because for this document K, we have no metadata, we can only run a document compare. If we add some metadata, we can run further modules. Similar to the activity list, we also have a search function to allow us to filter the list down, and we can add a document by clicking on the Add Document button on the left. To upload documents to the CQTT, click the Add Document button, and we'll see the interface changes to show me two ways in which I can upload documents. Similar to the new check wizard, I can either choose a file or I can drag and drop multiple files to the drop zone here. So choose file will only work if I want to upload an individual file, which I can do, and we see it appear, or I can drag multiple documents into the drop zone as follows. Once I've got all the documents that I want, I click the upload button and they are uploaded to the CQTT document list. We can now see the documents that I just uploaded. However, we can also see from the available modules column that I can only run document comparison against these documents because they have no document properties associated to them. So to edit the properties of an individual document, simply click the checkbox next to the document and you'll see the Edit Properties button is available, and we can also delete the document. It's worth noting that documents can only be deleted if they have not had checks run against them. I'll click the Edit Document Properties button, and the Edit Document Properties form is displayed on the left-hand side. This is similar to the document properties form that we saw in the activity list when we ran a new check. And as before, you can see that I need to select a certain number of properties in order to run module checks. So for PBQA, I need at least these 5. And again, as I'm adding them, you'll notice the numbers decreasing. Until I have at least a minimum amount of metadata required to run certain checks. I then click the Save Properties button and the document properties are saved. We can now see that the icons in the available modules column have updated to reflect the fact that based on the metadata I've provided, I can now put this document through all 4 modules within the CQTT. From the document list, I also have the ability to edit the properties of multiple documents, and these will be the common properties which affect the PBQA module. So if I select these 2 documents and click the Edit Properties button, you'll notice the Edit Properties form loads, but it only shows me the fields that are common across any document. So insurance type, I can select here, as before, market, class of business, a risk code if needed, exposure country, and taxation country, and save, and you'll notice that the list is updated with those metadata values for both of those documents. And as with the previous documents whose properties we edited, we can see that the available modules column has updated based on the metadata that we have provided. New checks can also be run from the document list. To run a check, simply select a document and you'll see that the modules to run buttons update based on the document selected. So here I've selected the top document and I can run PBQA. If I select the document underneath it, I can now run a compare as well. So if I select compare and PBQA, all I then need to do is click start and the check will be invoked. This will return us to the activity list where we can see the status icon telling us that the check is being run.